Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another Wave the Swan Battle Report. I hope you guys enjoyed my recent Adepticon coverage. If you haven't checked it out, it is on my YouTube channel. I have reports of all of the games from Masters on there, commentated and everything. Well, one game each round of the top 8 of Masters, so check those out. Pretty exciting stuff, but today we are back to our regularly scheduled broadcasting with some Stryker2 action on the table. Today, Stryker2 is facing off against some Gross Legion, piloted by Thagrosh, the Prophet of Everblight. So that's Thagrosh1, bringing a pretty standard list, not in theme, but I think a pretty standard list that you would see outside of the theme force. The theme force is really good, obviously. Getting a bunch of free points and spamming up a bunch of war beasts, pretty solid. But when you drop out of theme, you get a bunch of great picks like Hellmouths, as well as the character war beasts. There are 2 in this list, Azrael and Typhon. Typhon obviously could come in theme regardless, but Azrael is a pretty big deal. He can start the engagement for Thagrosh early, as well as he synergizes well with Draconic Blessing. You can start with Draconic Blessing on him for +2 strength, so he gets +2 to his damage rolls with his Thrown Spear, and then you can swap it over to a melee Warbeast if you need it later. There's also a bunch of great solos in there, like Deathstalkers, a Swamp Gobber Chef, as well as an Ogren Bokor, which is a pretty good include. He can stop sniper shots on the Hellmouths. He can protect Thagrosh as well, because Thagrosh tends to play pretty far forward, so having a shield guard in there is pretty good. And he's a kind of a bargain at 5 points, so not a terrible choice in there. But overall, a pretty strong list, and I think this is a list that you'll see a list that's very similar to this when you see Thagrosh1 not in theme. So, moving over to the Cygnar side, as I said before, I'm playing Lord Commander Stryker, and if you saw the previous game that I posted with Stryker versus Denegra 3, this is going to be the same list, so it's a Storm Division list. About 50-50 on whether I want to take him in Storm Division or not. I'm a little worried about killing infantry, so I brought Storm Division so I could do that, and so far it's been doing pretty well. Generally, I don't think I would play this list into a list like Thagrosh, because I'm not sure that Stryker has the hitting power over enough turns. He has one big turn, we can usually get a lot of work done, and then all the Storm Lances are dead, and he's basically has to do it with his Storm Wall and himself, which is probably fine, but is sometimes a little dicey. Generally, you want to go in with the Storm Lances and have a crippling turn, and that is usually more easier against lists with lots of infantry, because they can clear a lot of infantry with Electroleap. But the list is a Stormwall and a Lancer in Stryker's battle group, Journeyman Warcaster with a Firefly to synergize with those Stormlance guns, a minimum and a maximum unit of Stormlances, Arlen Strangeways, and Catherine Lattimore. So there's only 40 points of Storm Knights in this list. You're only getting 2 free solos from bringing the theme force, so it's Squire and the Journeyman. So you're 9 points up. However, the points don't add up very well, and you're actually 2 points down total. So it's a 101 point list plus 9 free points. So it's really only... You're really you're gypping yourself a little bit, because you can't really spend those 2 points on anything, unfortunately. And I haven't been able to jigger the list so I can find a better include for those 2 points. But so far, I like the list a lot, and it's performing very well for me. So pretty happy with it. Getting on into the game here, we can see that the scenario is recon. So there's that center zone that players can control for 1 point or dominate for 2. Each player has an objective in the zone. I believe we're both bunkers this game. Bunker being pretty solid choice. And then the flags on either side can be dominated for 1 point. And no kill box is in effect this game. Thagrosh is going first, and is probably going to anchor his line around that building there. There actually is a Hellmouth behind the building, just lipped around the corner, so it is going to get cover. And then the linear obstacle on the other side, it gives the other Hellmouth cover as well. Pretty strong side for Thagrosh. I did go second, so I chose side, but all those terrain pieces in conjunction with the objective makes things difficult for the Stormwall to maneuver around, so I decided I wanted the slightly clearer side of the table. But we see the Hellmouth tentacles moving up and just getting out of the way. One interesting thing this list does with the Hellmouth tentacles is that Thagrosh can move up and actually attack them with his melee weapon, Rapture, and when he kills them, they'll explode into eruption of ash clouds, so they'll become clouds. He can place them so that he's not in the clouds, and then he can move the rest of his army behind them, so he can create a little cloud wall by himself, and if necessary, he can anchor it off of his objective, or the Hellmouths, or any terrain in there. The terrain's relatively favorable for this, because he can link clouds between the objective and the house, or both. And then he can also potentially put a pretty strong war beast, something like Typhon, who's incredibly difficult to kill, around the edge if he needs to extend that line of sight blocking even further. So this list is actually very resilient to guns, in addition to having Fog of War. So those high defense war beasts like Typhon or like the Seraph are going to be defense 16, 15, 16 versus range attacks, which is pretty strong. Even the Hellmouths going up to defense 12 with that concealment is a pretty big deal. But we have the Stormlances moving up here, Striker casting decel, and the Arcane Shields going down on the larger unit of Stormlances, which is more centrally located. And then everything's moving up. There is no Naga in the Legion list, so that's going to make things much easier for me to survive the initial shooting. The Stormlances go up to armor 22 against shooting, and being that crucial defense 13 makes it very difficult for Typhon to hit them. So normally Typhon would be excellent at destroying Stormlances, but with his ranged attacks, but in this case he's a little gimped. The Hill is a big deal as well. It puts him up to defense 15 against ranged attacks, which means he needs 10s, which isn't super great. I also have a cheeky rebuke down on the lower unit of Hellmouth, the Hellmouth unit behind the building there. That's essentially to stop the tentacles from running and jamming up the Stormlances, because the Stormlances sort of have a tough time killing them reliably without being able to charge. And the last thing I want is for a bunch of Hellmouth tentacles to engage me. So what we have going on is Azrael moved up, and I actually forgot to mention Azrael's being proxied by an Angelius this game. I'd forgotten until now. But yeah, the Angelius is proxying Azrael because I think my opponent didn't have the model at this point. But Azrael went up and took some shots into the Firefly that's hiding behind the objective there. His first shot ended up critting, I believe, and slamming the Firefly into the Stormlance behind him, so did a ton of damage with that. And my opponent's actually going to go in and try to kill the Firefly this turn with Typhon. So generally, not the best trade to trade Typhon for a light Warjack, but it is Thagrosh, so he's going to be able to get Typhon back the next turn. And the Firefly actually represents a ton of free damage if my opponent doesn't kill him this turn, between the Stormlance assaults, which aren't particularly reliable against Thagrosh because they have a tough time hitting. But even getting a few extra POW 16s in there on the off chance they do hit is a big deal, as well as the additional damage on Electroleaps into models. There's a lot of armor 18 models on the table. Or Azrael as well as Typhon are armor 18, and the Seraph, if it's close enough, just gets wrecked by Electroleaps. So he's actually going to try to go in, pre-measuring out the distance for the spray now, moving up and getting in range. So he's, I think, targeting the Stormlance in the back and hitting the Lancer and the Firefly. Doesn't do a ton to the Lancer, but is, I believe, able to take the Firefly off the table. Gets another spray into a Stormlance, but I don't think does any damage. So that is the Firefly dead, and Typhon's now in a very precarious position. He is able to Animus, so he's going to be effectively armor 20 is how the math works out with his Animus. It's basically +2 armor. And in range of a bunch of Stormlances. Now Thagrosh is going to move up, create a cloud wall, so he's not going to be in very much danger, and then project his aura out over Typhon. So he's essentially going to be armor 22 against melee attacks. But the problem is that I essentially have to commit the Stormlances to try to kill him. If I don't, Typhon's in a great position. He can get up, he can get Draconic Blessing, he can kill a bunch of Stormlances, he can kill, clear my objective out and start scoring. He could potentially, get on the Storm Wall and do a ton of damage like that the next turn. So he's essentially forcing me to go in on Typhon and kill him and give Thagrosh a decent feat. And hopefully he can get enough Stormlances to charge in that it's worth the feat, and I think that's probably fair. So we have Thagrosh moving up and creating his little cloud wall, so he's going to anchor it off the objective and be able to protect himself as well as the Carnivian for the most part there. Carnivian's in range to eat some shots from the Storm Wall, but I don't know if he's super afraid of that. And then the Seraph is going to be hiding behind all those models too, because Seraph's pretty important in this matchup to get the extra threat range into to fight Storm Lances. And everything else positioning out. The Gobrachev's moving up behind that Cloud Wall. That's an important model as well, because he's able to use Helmut Tentacles to trigger Hot Meal, and the Helmut Tentacles place before Hot Meal triggers, so he's able to place Helmut Tentacles anywhere he needs to in order to clear Fury. So that's a big deal, especially since his army's running pretty hot this turn. Azrael's mostly filled up, I think. Typhon's filled up, and the Carnivian spent a bunch to do his Animus. So a lot of Fury out on the table, and having those Hot Meals available is a big deal. Weighing my options here, it's clear that I have to go in on Typhon and try to kill him. The question is whether I want to feat this turn. The best use of my feat this turn, and in this matchup, I think, is that it moves the Stormlances farther away from Thagrosh1's army. Because of Thagrosh1's Death Shroud aura, the Stormlances aren't actually going to really do any damage with their feat attacks. So it's mostly positioning in this particular matchup, or they can clear some random models if they need to. We have the Lancer going in. It does have positive charge, and Stryker decelerated again, I believe. And the Lancer's doing a couple points of damage to Typhon. And I think I killed the Helmut Tentacles that were jamming in the way with the minimum unit of Storm Lances. So it's time for the max unit to go in. The Lancer did a couple points of damage. It's pretty significant. It's down a lot because of the Animus and the Death Shroud. So it's not. I'm not actually expecting it to do much damage. But Stryker doesn't have a ton to spend his Fury on this turn. Generally, the turn before he feats, he can afford to allocate a bunch of focus because he doesn't have a lot to do. But we have the Storm Lances going in. One impact attack on Typhon under positive charge, so that's pretty strong. And then 3 more Storm Lances charging in there with their assault shots, but I don't know if they're in Lattermore's range. I think on average dice with the impact attack, which isn't affected by Death Shroud, the 4 Storm Lances should pretty handily kill Typhon. But unfortunately, I roll pretty bad on my attacks, and I end up leaving him alive. So that's a mildly disastrous situation for the Storm Lances. I didn't feat, so they're not going to be able to get quite far enough out of range. They are able to spread out, which is a big deal for a model with only 1-inch melee like Typhon. And the Lancer's up in there. That unit's still Arcane Shielded, which is good. The Lancer's really up in the way, jamming things. But unfortunately, Typhon's still alive, so that means Thagrosh isn't going to have to feat this turn. He's going to be able to save his feat for another turn, get a full activation out of Typhon, and as I mentioned before, he's going to be able to clear all the Fury he needs to with the Helmut Tentacles and the Gobrachef. So this turn was pretty bad. It almost could not have gone worse. I was really expecting to have Thagrosh feat, but we'll see how it goes from here. Fortunately, I'm not in a terrible position. I'm going to lose some more Storm Lances than I expected. I assume that Typhon's going to be in a position to potentially clear the zone because he's going to be able to take out the Lancer and the objective very easily. That it wouldn't really have changed anything, and I don't think the feat from Stryker would have changed much either. The Storm Lances could have gotten farther away, potentially saved 1, but I think it's worth having the additional damage output on the subsequent turn. So we'll see how it goes. But my opponent planning out how exactly he's going to kill all of my poor Storm Knights and doing some sweet apparitions. So we are apparating the Seraph into range of Typhon. So the Seraph's going to go slipstream himself and then move backwards. It's a pretty good little trick there for you aspiring Legion players out there, is you keep your Seraph within 4 inches of important models, because then you can just slipstream without really having to move very much. So Seraph going in, slipstreams Typhon out of melee with the Stormlance there, actually, and takes some shots into him and flares him. Now, he is very high armor, and as I said before, there's no Blessed on the table for Thagrosh, so not being able to get through the decel plus Arcane Shield very easily, but he is flared, so he's only defense 11. And then gonna see what the Carnivian's gonna do. Okay, so we have, I think that was Azrael actually taking that Stormlance out and then taking a shot into the Storm Wall. The Storm Wall's taking some significant damage from Azrael. I think he put a pot shot into the Storm Wall and did a bunch of damage, and I repaired it with Arlen. But that was about it. The Carnivian going in and actually rolling pretty bad on the Lancer. I think he missed a bunch of attacks. But almost crippling. It looks like mostly crippling the Lancer there. So that's going to be easy pickings for Typhon. Lancer, positive charge only lasts a turn, so it's no longer positive charged. It's power 11 under Thagrosh1's feet, so the Typhon can take a free strike from it pretty safely if he has excessive healing up. So any aspects that get taken out will just get healed immediately. And so he moves over there and takes the Lancer out pretty easily. Is in range to take the objective out, so he kills a Stormlance and is able to take the objective out as well. So that's going to be Thagrosh dominating up to 2 CPs, or up to 3 CPs, excuse me, because he destroyed the objective for 1 point. And then Helmut Tentacles getting in there and jamming everything up. So this is a pretty good turn for Thagrosh, obviously. He's cleared out that center area pretty nicely, but he's only killed 2 Stormlances. So I still have 6 Stormlances plus Catherine Lattimore available, and because the Carnivian and Typhon had to come forward to do that, they are in threat range of all the little pony guys. Unfortunately, all my positive charge targets outside of the Storm Wall have been taken out. Usually, I can bank on having a light to run in, and so the Storm Wall doesn't have to necessarily be thrown in there, but they're all dead. So the Stormwall is going to have to make some aggressive plays, and I'm going to try to get some Stormlances to kill some Legion War beasts. We have the Strider Deathstalker, little side note, up there in my deployment zone on the top left. You can see it just barely up there, and she's been getting up and sniping Arlen Strangeways for a couple points of damage, which is pretty annoying. He does have 8 boxes, so he's pretty resilient to that, but slowly but surely she'll get there, and she's gonna be threatening the Journeyman and the Squire pretty soon as well. So that's pretty annoying stuff going on. So we have Stryker going in. He's actually getting pretty crazy. He positive charges the Stormwall, gets in and swings at Typhon, ends up killing him, and then takes a swing at the Tentacle as well, and kills that as well, and then velocities away. So Stryker gets some work done. He is power 17 under positive charge, so he's able to finish off Typhon pretty easily. And Thagrosh is in the back corner of the zone there, so his Death Field Aura isn't being projected particularly far. But he does have positive charge on the Stormwall, and the Stormwall is just going to run up into range of the Carnivian. The Carnivian is going to be armor 22 against melee attacks because of Thagrosh's bubble, so it's pretty crucial that the Stormlances in there get positive charge in order to be able to do any damage. They are going to have a couple of attacks from the feet, but those are going to be dice -7, and that's not particularly great. So now Stryker is potentially a little bit in danger here. He did feat, so he's going to be able to move over and get on that hill, so he's not going to be particularly scared about ranged attacks, but I'm not sure if that's going to be quite enough. I think I do end up Arcane Shielding the Stormwall this turn. The Stormlances are pretty much going to die to whatever attacks them. And then they go in, those little Stormlances. So I think in hindsight it might have been better at this point to Arcane Shield Stryker, because Stormwall is... if I'm able to take out the Carnivian, essentially the only models that can attack the Stormwall are going to be Azrael and Thagrosh that turn. I don't think Thagrosh is going to risk going in by himself. We do have 2 Stormlances kill the objective, and then the rest go into the Carnivian and do a bunch of damage. They are... I think I forget to reposition them, so that's awkward. Oh, no, now I do. All right, so the rest of the Stormlances, or Lattimore running up, she's going to be in range to take some attacks on the feet if she needs to. The other Stormlances advancing forward and taking some ranged attacks just to try to clear models out. I'm hoping I can clear the zone this turn as well. Okay, so there we go. The Storm Maul, it took its feat attack with just a punch and boosted damage, and it was able to kill the Carnivean at dice even. So now the only model in the zone is the Ogryn Bokor, and we kill him with a couple of attacks under positive charge, and take him out. So that's going to clear the zone as well. Just Thagrosh is in there, but obviously he doesn't contest being a Warlock. So that's going to score me 3 points as well, and Catherine Lattimore moving up and attacking, I think the Hellmouth, which isn't going to do a ton. The rest of the Stormlance is moving back to hide, and then Stryker getting on that hill there. So again, a pretty strong turn for me. I assume Typhon's going to come back and be a pain in the ass to kill, but I think I've killed enough that it's probably fine. I expect to lose most of the Stormlances, or at least have them pulled out of position by Hellmouth tentacles. Azrael can get in there and kill a bunch of them. My opponent can potentially engage a bunch more and just get right in the way. Thagrosh could even get in and get some attacks done with Obliteration, something like that. That's I don't have D-Cell or Arcane Shield on those guys, so Obliteration's pretty good at killing them. But we'll see how it goes. Stryker is camping one focus on the hill back there. I think I left enough away from him, so he's not going to get randomly like mutagenesis and die. But I don't remember off the top of my head. I am at 3 points, so the plan is if my opponent brings back Typhon, he's going to be hopefully the Storm Wall survives. It does have Arcane Shield on it, so it's going to be very difficult to kill. With its systems activated, Arlen Strangeways moved up to within 5 inches with his feet move. And then hopefully the Storm Wall's going to be able to kill Typhon again, and that's going to allow me to clear the zone. I did place Stryker in range of the flag, so he can move over to the bottom flag there and start scoring on that if he needs to. Stryker being one of the more mobile casters in the game, so he's able to play those recon flags pretty well. Thagrosh looks like he's taking some attacks with his sword and kills one Stormlance to create a cloud, puts Typhon down with his feet. And then, is he going to kill that second Stormlance? Maybe. Maybe not. Who knows? I think that was a Seraph going, actually, and attacking Catherine Lattimore. She is engaged by the Hellmouth, so pretty high defense, but she's essentially not going to go anywhere. If the tentacle hits her with a free strike, she can be pulled back in and not be able to move out. And the Hellmouth is going to be able to hit her if she moves away as well. So she lives behind that house now. That's her house. That's where she makes her home. Looks like we're measuring Azrael's movement, so he's going to try to get in and kill even more Stormlances. With flight, he's able to charge right over them. Excuse me, he's attacking the Storm Wall and lighting it on fire with his awesome stick. And then killing off the Stormlances with his spear as well. So we're down to 2 Stormlances and a engaged Catherine Lattimore. The Typhon is in the zone as well as Azrael, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to kill both. Potentially if the Stormlances can kill Azrael, I think it's a big ask, but with positive charge, you can do a lot of things. It's a magical spell. It's pretty amazing. It just makes anything happen. But it does look like the Storm Wall wasn't particularly crippled. Arlen Strange is going to take some more points of damage from the Deathstalker. Fortunately, he has 8, so plenty to spare. And then he's going to be able to repair all the systems on the Storm Wall, and hopefully the Storm Wall can kill stuff. There's Typhon going and just casting his Animus, so he hopefully doesn't die. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully he does die, but my opponent, I'm sure, is hoping that he doesn't. And there goes a Gobber running in to be annoying to those Stormlances. Yeah, I think this might actually be the Hellmouth attacking Lattimore. And the Spell Martyr running up to get some sweet mutagenesis action going on Stryker and kill him. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but we'll see. I'm pretty bad at this game, and so I might just walk into some sweet assassinations. So back to my turn. Measuring out where Stryker's going to go, I'm considering charging the Gobberchef and trying to kill him, because he's in the way of the Stormlances. I think I need the Stormlances to have a clean charge in order to to kill Azrael. If they're able to kill Azrael, the Stormwall can go and kill Typhon, and that will, I believe, win me the game. I don't think anything else is contesting at this point, but we'll see how it goes. Unfortunately, that means Stryker's going to have to be pretty far up the table. He's not going to be able to have as much focus as he wants. And I do think I upkeep Arcane Shield on the Stormwall. I was worried about it getting killed if I fail, but I mean, Stryker's baller enough that he's able to close the game out himself. So I'm more worried about damage on Stryker, I think, at this point. So that should be a lesson to you guys. If your opponent has to, if you leave your Stormwall open and your opponent has to dedicate their whole army to killing it, you probably just let them do that. It's probably fine. So Stryker does go up, positive charge the Stormwall, and kill the Gobber-Chef, and then velocity back to his safe little hill there, where he has a commanding view of the Cygnaran countryside. The Stormlance is going in, doing some impact attacks into Azrael. Again, impact attacks not affected by Death Shroud, so it's actually POW 14, which is pretty significant on only an armor 18 Warbeast. Lattermore's still alive, I believe, and still on her horse. So we get some pretty sweet gunshots as well, but we aren't able quite able to kill off Azrael with those two guys. Lattermore taking some swings at Thagrosh, actually, I think, and getting some lightning generators into some random solos. I think we hit the Seraph for a couple points as well. So now the question is whether the Stormwall can kill both those heavies, and I'm pretty sure it's not great odds for him to do that. We have a Stryker on the hill there, and I moved the Squire up into the zone to contest. Junior went up and shot the Spell Martyr to stop that mutagenesis shenanigans. Stormwall blows one punch in and kills off Azrael. We roll amazing on a damage roll on Typhon, and looks like amazing on another damage roll. And do a bunch of damage. He ends up getting killed. So Stryker is able to... or the Stormwall is able to kill both heavy, so that's amazing. I think I misspoke earlier. I said I went to 3 points. I only went to 2 points. But this turn we're going to go to 3, so we're going to be in range so the Stryker can dominate and win the game on the subsequent turn. Yeah, that was my mistake previously, but we're at the point where all I have to do is have Stryker kill everything, and then I'll win. Stryker's pretty good at that. He's in a position where he can close the game out, but unfortunately, I've made a terrible mistake, and I put the Squire next to my caster, and that was pretty dumb. So we're making some measurements right here. I think what my opponent wants to do is essentially just walk up with Thagrosh and mutagenesis the Squire, hopefully kill it, and then get some attacks on Stryker and try to kill him off. He is camping 0, I think. He had to spend everything to velocity back onto that hill, so that he wasn't... he was far enough away from the Seraph, and the Seraph's having a tough time getting a position to attack. Lattermore's in the way still, I believe, and so Seraph doesn't necessarily want to take a free strike. I think he ends up taking the free strike and moving over. It looks like I knock an aspect out, but I'm not sure which one it is. But he misses Stryker regardless. I think I took body out, which is the least useful one to take out, because all he needs to do is hit to get the -2 defense on. But he doesn't hit the 13s to hit Stryker on the hill. He does end up mutagenesising the Squire, placing himself next to Stryker, and then taking his attacks. In his last-ditch attempt to kill him, he hits 1 or 2 attacks, but Stryker, fortunately with 17 life, is pretty resilient to Thagrosh's shots. Deathstalker moves up, and I think he's in range of Stryker, which... but activated in probably the wrong order, and ended up missing because Stryker was in melee. So we barely survived an assassination run that I very stupidly put myself in range of. Otherwise, very close game. Well, that made it a very close game, very strong game from the Storm Division. I was only down to 2 Stormlights at the end, but the Stormwall was looking pretty healthy, and the attrition was going very well, even with the bad turn attacking Typhon. So, fortunately, a victory for Mr. Stryker2, and a good game to my opponent. And I hope you guys enjoyed this sweet battle report. stay tuned for some more battle reports on this channel if you so desire. Please, if you have a chance, check out my Patreon. You can check it out at patreon.com/wayoftheswan, I believe is the URL. That helps us keep the lights on over here, make some sweet battle reports, and get out to those conventions so I can record some games. Anyway, keep it classy, folks.